Oh, I do not have a hat. No, I have a hat. All right. Welcome, everybody who's joining my live stream eventually or watching it after the fact. Thank you for joining me. So, I recently released an album. And what's weird about making music is that you have to constantly be ahead of time. Because if you're delayed in releasing music, then you feel rushed to make something new constantly. And you feel as though what you're putting out is rushed rather than polished. But the funny dilemma with being ahead of time and releasing music ahead of the fact is that you're always putting out old music. So the music that you're putting out could be like a year old, uh, and you're like, oh, it was forever ago that I made that. But it's your current music. That is what I'm facing currently with my album. Now, like I said last time, the album that I have out. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. The album that I have out currently, I made back in my senior year of college. And what I was doing is I would wake up, go to class, or actually at this time when I was making this album, uh, what was more actual is I would wake up early, drive an hour into an internship that I was attending where I would teach a sixth grade class, and then I would come back home. And I would normally skip meetings. They had meetings, and my mentor teacher, who I was interning with, sometimes asked, like, "Do you want to come to these meetings? Like, you might be able to learn." I never went because if I did go, then I wouldn't have time to eat breakfast and make music. So what I would do is I would come back to my house and I would make breakfast while getting a little workout in. But normally I did that right when I woke up. So like while the breakfast was cooking, I'd get a bit of a workout in, and then I'd eat breakfast and start to make a new beat. And normally what I would do while I was eating breakfast and making a new beat is I would either start rapping on that beat right away or try to write a poem, or sometimes I would just make the beat and sit on it. So I was doing that like my entire senior year, where I was pumping out as many songs as I wanted to, as felt comfortable. And I ended up cutting a lot of those songs, but I ended up keeping about 20 of those songs, 10 for commencement ceremony and 10 for prior to walking. So I split the songs up. I was going to have them all on one big album. If you listen to the album before commencement ceremony, it was Experiencing Some Reality. And that was the first album, like the entire mixtape that I decided to make. Before that, I was doing singles, only singles. I was just getting practice in. I was doing a lot of like freestyling to beats without even recording it, and I was making singles to get practice in, to put in my reps. Then I put a mixtape together, Experiencing Some Reality, where I just made beats. I was like finally at the point where I'm like, hey, if I try, I can make a beat. So I tried to make a beat, and I made beats, and I just kept making them. And if the beat was good, see how I used to do beat making, and it really rubbed off on me because I still like do it to an extent, is I will make a bunch of beats, and then I'll go back and pick my favorites and rap over them. But what I was doing during this time is I would make a beat, and then thank you, Another Dimension. Thank you for joining the stream. If you just entered, I'm talking about my process of making my first albums. Like Ratik Farm said, I'm time warping. So like especially with the Proverbs project, what I would do is I would make a bunch of beats and then I would sit on them for like a month because I knew that if I gave them time to age, that I would be able to go back and be more selective. Like I'd be like, oh, that's trash or that's good, you know. But I knew if it was fresh in my mind, you know, that's a writing tip they say is like if you write like a book, put it away for a few months. Don't even like think about it, and then go back and edit it ruthlessly. So that's what I did with my beats. Except during the time I was making Experiencing Some Reality, my first mixtape, what I would do is if the beat was like super catchy, like if while I was making it, I was bobbing my head, I was like, this is a beat I need to work with. Then what I would do is I would just rap on it right there. Like I would write something, like kind of like a freestyle. I would write something to it, or I would just freestyle a chorus. I would just go in. I'd go for it. And then I'd spend a couple days. Uh, I make a lot of my beats. I don't make all my beats. So on my EPs that have the mask, Oscar made those beats. I do my EP collaborations with Oscar Flamingo Man. Sorry, not Oscar. Flamingo Man. Uh, so he makes those beats. And I've been working with Flamingo Man ever since I couldn't make beats at all. I didn't even know what 4x4 beat was. I didn't even know how to use the grid. But I started working on Experiencing Some Reality a lot later. So I started to make those songs and put them together. And what I did differently when it came to making Prior to Walking and Commencement Ceremony, which I made those two albums at the same time, is I wouldn't sit on the beat as much. Is I would make a beat, and if I really digged it, I would put a song together for it. And if like right away, and if I didn't dig it, I would keep it in the archives, but I probably wouldn't end up using it. And then what I did is I sat on the songs. I sat on the songs rather than sitting on the beat, and then I would slowly go in and edit. So each song was like an entire like sat on process where I would slowly add little increments to it. And I think that's why Commencement Ceremony has like so many little like chops and details to it, is because like I would keep going back to it. I lost my point of thought. Yes. Thank you, Another Dimension. Thank you, Ratik Farms, for watching. I guess I don't know what the whole point of that was. Currently, what I'm doing and what I had been doing. So I have 3 albums that are set to release now. Album cover's done. Lyrics are typed, set to release. They're through my distributor. They're going to be on stores. What I did with those albums is I would sit down and like for a week, I would say, okay, this week I'm going to make 2 complete songs. Yeah. So I'm going to make 2 complete songs every day. Completely mixed, not mastered, but completely mixed, all the vocals there. So at first I made a dance song, like a couple dance songs. And then eventually I wanted to challenge myself a bit. So I made some jazzy songs, where it's like really lyrical, jazzy rap. And then I kept like going and going and going. And then I'd like take a week off where I'd only make a song or 2. And then I would do another week like that. I was like, okay, this week I'm going to make 2 songs a day, completely finished. So I did that, and I completely polished songs. And I forget how many I made. I made like a bunch of songs, and I ended up cutting it down to, 16 songs. And I divided those 16 songs, just completely finished. I didn't go back and edit them. I didn't go back and add anything. And if I did, it was like minuscule things like I chopped some like layering that was clipping or that I didn't like or something like that. Or like I did a review with my family where I showed everybody my music, and they have big speakers in the living room. So we all played it. We banged it in the living room, just super loud. And if there was anything I heard I didn't like, I wrote notes. And they said like the songs they liked and the songs they didn't like, what they didn't like about it. So if I liked the recommendations, I went back and I made edits. and I edited those songs, and then I just polished them, and I just finished them. And then I sat on them for a little bit. Then I decided these are going to go on an album, these aren't. And so that is how I made my past albums and how I made my current ones. The process of making music that I'm going to settle on, I don't know. But currently what I'm thinking is if I start making a song a week, that's going to be an entirely different process than anything I've experimented. How I polish a song is I use EQ to make sure that no frequencies are clashing, right? And I'll go through and I'll make sure that everything's pitched how I want it to be pitched. I'll make sure that my vocals are properly de-essed, which I've had a bad habit in the past of over-producing my vocals to the point where they don't sound good. Like I would chop too much out of them, harsh frequencies. I would go through and I'll chop harsh frequencies out of my melodies. I will fine-tune the volumes of my beat. I'll listen to it at low volumes and I'll listen to it at high volumes to make sure that nothing is like out of order. I'll listen to it on loudspeakers to make sure that the kicks aren't hitting too hard for like a club-like setting. See, a lot of people, they want to just like bash the low end, just make it like completely like shatter everything. But what they forget is, if it actually plays in an area where the low end can be really accentuated, it's not going to sound good. So low end kind of has to be tucked in a little bit. So I'll do things like that. I won't put anything like reverb on the master or anything, just making sure that all my levels are like compact together. And I'm still learning a lot about mixing, but I kind of mix as I craft. As I'm making the song, I'll mix it as well, which a lot of people don't do, but a lot of people do on YouTube. They'll like mix and add effects and add EQ while they're making the beat, and I'll do that too because a certain sound won't sound the same after it's mixed. I can see why live bands would mix after they've created it because, you're just playing your instrument and then later you have to go in with your effects and like make everything sound all right and have room for each other. But when I make beats, I'll apply all the effects right there. So when I clean up a beat, all I do is I just make sure that I was correct with my settings. I make sure that my levels are all right. I'll make sure that everything flows throughout the song how I want it to. And I'm not perfect at it yet. And sometimes I just say, you know what, it's good enough. And sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. So in the past, I've used a selection process. What do you mean by take my music? Like, did I show my music off? Like, did I show a lot of people my music? There was a small concert at school, like 12 people showed up. It was in the heart of the university, but like 12 people showed up. People were walking to and from, but no, I actually studied English in college. I didn't study music. I studied English. So there was a concert though, and there was the DJ, and I had the DJ play one of my songs. So that was something. No, what I used to do though, for sure, is in my English classes where they were talking about Byron or theory or whatever they were talking about, is I would scribble poems constantly, and I was a poet well before I was a musician. Music is fairly new to me. I've only been doing it for 4 years now, but poetry I've been doing my whole life. I've been writing stories ever since I was a little kid. So yeah, thank you for the questions, Another Dimension. They are appreciated as always. If you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments. But that is it for my stream today. Thank you for joining, and I appreciate you all. I love you all for the support. I really do. And take care.